Welcome to my kitchen. A few years ago when we moved into this house, I replaced a single fixture with this LED fixture, but today that's gonna go. We're gonna replace it with these. Some slim recessed LED lights. Now I went with 4000 Kelvin for the kitchen because I wanted it to be just a little bit cooler than the living spaces. Now let's open it up and see what's inside. Also to note, I will have links to this and everything else I use in this video in the description below. But inside the box, they come with a circle template, but we don't need that. A user manual, don't need that either. Some packing material, and then it comes to the lights themselves. Look how slim these things are. Probably less than a half an inch thick. And then you've also got 4 junction boxes for each of the lights. And inside of them, they've got some really crappy connectors. We're not going to use those. I'll show you what we're going to use in a little bit. So now we'll go back up into the kitchen and I need to get all my measurements. I need to get the length and the width of the kitchen itself. And I'm going to write that down. So then I can go over to this handy dandy website, the Recessed Lighting blog. Again, I'll have links to these things in the description below. Simply input the length and the width, check your selected layout, and then hit calculate, and it gives you all of your measurements needed to put the lights up nicely. And now that I've got all my measurements, I can then transfer those to my ceiling. And I'm just using a little bit of painter's mask and measuring a couple times from each side to get my first initial mark, and then placing that mark on the ceiling and taking that masking tape right off. I'm also using a laser level to help out with the measuring so I can make sure that I'm straight, because ain't nothing worse than some off-centered lights. Next, I just turned off the power to the kitchen so I could remove the existing light fixture. And nobody tell my wife I was standing on the island. She probably wouldn't like that a whole lot. Now this fixture is on a single pole light switch, so I am going to leave it just like that and just wire right off of this existing circuit. Now that I've got everything ready to go, it's time to cut the holes, and I'm using a 6.1 inch or 155 millimeter hole saw, which was super easy to use with this corded drill. You heard me right, corded. Now up in the attic, I'm going to be replacing that junction box with this metal junction box that I'm going to screw to a joist, but I just couldn't get a camera up in my attic space to film, and it was just way too dark anyways. So you'll just have to trust me that I replaced it up there and then ran all of my 14-2 to each hole. Which brings me to the junction boxes. Here there are 3 knockouts for each junction box. I like to take the top here and just take a screwdriver, twist, and it breaks that knockout right out of that box. You can take that excess and toss it across your shop. Now inside the junction box, you'll have a hot wire, a neutral wire, and a ground wire, black, white, and green. But before we start doing anything with the wiring, we need to put a knockout connector in that knockout hole that we just knocked out. Now to wire everything together, I'm going to be using these Wago lever wire nuts. And I'll have a link to these in the description below, but they are the best. I will never use a traditional wire nut ever, ever, ever again. They are so simple to use. You just lift the lever, insert the wire, flip the lever back down, and you're ready to go. That's it. Now these lights, they are so slim, like I said earlier. And on each side, you'll see these blue springs, and they are super strong. That's what's gonna suck that light right up to your drywall. They do have this plastic covering on it. Some people just really love pulling this stuff off. I don't really see what the appeal is, but I guess whatever floats your boat. Also on these lights, they have a gasket. I never use the gasket unless I'm gonna be putting these things in the bathroom, which I have, and I left the gasket on for those. But this is gonna be in my kitchen, so I'm gonna take the gasket off so it sucks the light up right up to the drywall and there's no gap. So I'll bring back the junction box, and here is the connection from the light to the junction box. It's just a 2-pin connection with a locking nut. Super easy. You put it together, you screw the nut together, and the connection is secure. So here I've already wired my 14.2 to the junction box, and I am stuffing that up into the ceiling, and then I'll connect the light to the junction box. But this is a perfect example for these lights being able to go absolutely anywhere. Gone are the days of making sure you have space in between two joists, because right here on the right of that hole, that's a joist. Just make sure the springs are not going to hit that joist, and those springs will pull that light right up to the ceiling flush. Perfect every time. The installation of these lights was just so much easier than I first anticipated. Once I learned you didn't have to know where your joists were, and then I found the website that gave you all your measurements for equal distancing, it just seemed like a walk in the park, really. But the most satisfying part of this install was when I wired up that last light, connected it, and then let the springs pull that light right up to that ceiling, and it looked like they belonged there all along. And with that last light installed, I could flip the breaker back and then turn the switch on in the kitchen and check out those new LEDs. Now, I love these LEDs, and more importantly, the wife loves them. But if you love this video, would you give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already? And until the next one, get out there and build it and film it.